All right, that was easy. Okay, we are finally starting to get the hang of this. All right, so let's put this chat up there because that one fits up there pretty good. No, it doesn't. Okay, all right, perfect. Put our site over here. Okay. All right, hey everybody, I'm BGM, and tonight on live deck building, we're doing a Brea Ethereum Shaper. She's our commander tonight. We are doing Artifact-ocrats. This lady is a 4/4 artifact creature human, and when she enters the battlefield, she makes 2 Thopters, and we're going to be sacking those Thopters almost immediately, because she has an activated ability where we can pay 2 mana, and we choose an ability where we deal 3 damage to target player or planeswalker. We can do a little bit of removal. We can get rid of small stuff, give something -4/-4 until end of turn, or we can just gain 5 life. We can really take Brea wherever we want to take her, as long as we're in an artifact strategy and we're making tokens we want to sacrifice, or just a bunch of little things we want to sacrifice and then take out a graveyard, put back. Hey, it's me, TikTok guy from TikTok, suggests a Displacer Kitten. Our first suggestion of the night is a Displacer Kitten from Hey, it's me, that guy on TikTok. Displacer Kitten's cool. This thing came out in the Baldur's Gate expansion. It's a cute little kitten. It's blue. It's a 4-drop, and it says that it's loading. Yeah, Displacer Kitten. 4 mana, mono blue, 2/2. It says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, exile to one target non-land permanent you control, then plop that thing back onto the battlefield under its owner's control. Displacer Kitten's cool. We're going to be running a lot of artifacts. I bet a lot of our artifacts aren't going to be creatures. And Brea herself has an enter the battlefield trigger. When Brea enters, she makes 2 little Thopter tokens, and then she wants to be sacrificing those tokens. Displacer Kitten is a cool thing where we can get the trigger, bounce our commander, generate 2 little Thopters that we can use for value, we can use to sacrifice to Brea's ability. Good suggestion. I like that a lot. That's going to keep generating us Thopters. And if we have other things with ETB triggers, we can use the Displacer Kitten to reuse those triggers. Very cool. Good start tonight, guys. All right, Joshua Cooley says, what does this commander do? So we are looking at Brea, the Ethereum Sculptor. She is a 4-mana commander in every color but green. And she says that when she enters the battlefield, she makes 2 Thopters. We can pay 2 mana, and we can give something -4/-4 until end of turn. We can give ourselves 5 life, or what's the last one say? Draw a card? Nope, deals 3 damage to target player or planeswalker. So she's got 2 forms of removal. She loves popping small creatures. If you guys have any suggestion for our Brea deck, please put them in the comments. Matten168 over on Twitch, thank you for supporting me on Twitch over there. I appreciate it. It says an Anointed Procession. So Anointed Procession is a very cool little mono white card. It's a 4-drop enchantment. And it says if we would make tokens, we make double that amount of tokens instead. This thing's 70 bucks. Thank you so much for the follow. Hey, it's me, that guy on TikTok. I appreciate it. It's cool. This is Anointed Procession. It's pricey as hell. It's 70 bucks. I would recommend a proxy. Hopefully we get a reprint of this soon. We are starting to see reprints from like this era of Magic. What do we see? We saw like the Emmercruel got printed in the Innistrad Remaster set, and that's only like a year or 2 but from Anointed Procession. They really need to be putting that in. Alright, we got a Return Favor is our suggestion from Mr. Joshua Cooley. Return Favor. Thank you very much for the suggestion, Joshua. I appreciate it. So Return the Favor is a 2-mana mono red instant, and this thing's got Spree, so we're gonna be casting it for its added casting cost. We have to pay at least 1 more into it. We can either copy target instant spell, sorcery spell, activate ability, or trigger ability. You may choose new targets for the copy, or we can change the targets of a spell. I love this thing. This thing's super fun in Commander, because for 3 mana, you can also copy someone's Cultivate on mana curve, and that's really exciting. I like it a lot. There's a lot of things worth copying that aren't yours, and this thing, yeah, it can touch your opponent's spells. That's very fun in a Commander game, and if you're patient, you can make this thing pay off a lot. Like, if someone's casting, like, a Cyclonic Rift, copy it. Copy their Cyclonic Rift. It's so silly. This thing's 4 bucks, it's from Thunder Junction, and I'm only ever using it for that first ability. If you want to be mean and like maybe change the target of their removal and also copy their removal for a total of 4 mana instant, this thing's actually hilarious. I love this thing from a commander perspective because you can change the copy of like the big scary spell. This is very cool. I like this a lot. It's only 4 bucks and it's from Thunder Junction. It's an uncommon. All right, You're lag. I'm sorry. I'm lagging. Time Sieve. Okay, I don't love this. The vibes have in fact changed. Let's talk about Time Sieve. Time Sieve is a favorite card amongst people who want to take infinite turns. This is a 2-mana artifact. It says sacrifice 5 artifacts, take an extra turn. I hate this card. I find it unfair. Brea, however, loves Time Sieve. Time Sieve is simply just one of the most powerful things you could put in Brea. I think it's a vibe killer. I don't think it's cool. Because this thing, if you just have a good enough artifact token production, you can sacrifice 5 tokens, no sweat, every turn, and then you're taking infinite turns until you win the game, except it's taking a long time, and that's kind of a vibe killer for me. I don't like this card. I don't think extra turns are cool and fun, because I am a casual commander, baby. That's just my take. I think that card is Dual Caster Mage. Says Madden Dual Caster Mage. Dual Caster Mage. Dual Caster Mage. Dual Caster Mage. Uh-oh. Dual Caster Mage. There's a Thopter card that gives... There is a Thopter card that gives... I think it's called Thopter. It's like Thopter Squadron. We were going to see a squadron, Thopter Squadron at some point. Thopter Squadron, it's 5 mana. It enters the battlefield with 3+1/+1 counters on it. You can pay 1. You can remove a counter from your Thopter Squadron and put a Thopter token into play. It's a 1/1. You can also pay 1 and sacrifice a Thopter and put a +1/+1 counter on Thopter Squadron. Excuse me. It's not Thopter Squadron, but this one is an artifact. It itself makes tokens. It can make 3 for a total mana investment of 8. It's cool. People run it. It's $2. It's got a bunch of different arts. It's been reprinted to death. All right. Chamil the Inner Sun. Jeremy Billman over on TikTok wants us to play a Chamil the Inner Sun. Chamil the Inner Sun is a rad little colorless artifact that came out in the Caverns of Ixalan expansion. It's 6 mana. It's colorless. It says our stuff cannot be countered. And it also gives us an end step trigger to Discover 5. Discover is a trigger like Cascade, except Discover's better because if you hit something with Discover trigger and you don't want to cast it, you can choose to put it into your hand instead. But with Cascade, you have to cast it or you'll lose it forever in exile. This thing's great. It's a little piece of value. It itself is $23 because it's colorless. It can go in every deck. And it's fun. It's a mythic. It's exciting. It gets you those triggers. It is 6 mana though. And I don't know. I have one and it lives in a binder. The thing about this card though is like I like all my stuff to be like really intentional. Like I want to do things on purpose. I sometimes don't like casting free spells because I like to be meticulous and plan out all my triggers and stuff. And Chamil the Inner Sun just gets you free stuff. Thopter Assembly is the one. Oh, Thopter Assembly. Thopter Assembly is a rad little blue card. If you want to win, is this the one with the win con on it? Is this the 21? Thopter Assembly, it's blue, it's like 4 mana, it makes a Thopter, and then it rewards you for having Thopters. We're loading it, it's coming up. Thank you very much for the follow, Steven Smith. I am Bigger Gayer Magic, I'm a video editor and MTG content creator. This is our suggestion, Thopter Assembly. It's a 6 mana, colorless artifact creature. It's 50 cents, and it's a 5/5. It looks like this one came out in a pre-con. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control no Thopters other than the Thopter Assembly, you return it to your hand, and you make 5 little 1/1s. 5 little 1/1s is all you need for Time Sieve, and you could just keep tapping Time Sieve, and you can take infinite turns and make your friends groan and want to go home. This thing's great though. If you're not using it to take infinite turns with Time Sieve, it's a vibe. And it's great. It makes a bunch of 1/1s. We can use Brea's ability to sacrifice them to remove stuff, or gain us some life. It's a vibe. I like it. Bam. Alright, mandated peace. Joshua suggests a mandated peace. Mandated peace is not something I'm familiar with, but it sounds like a white card. Can I please get a spell check on M-A-N-D-A-T-E-D, mandated peace? I'm sorry, can I please get a spell check on mandated peace? And then we see an Urabras Forge suggested by a Golden Archer 720. Thank you very much for hanging out, Golden Archer. I'm BGM. We do live deck building here. If you want to see any of the suggestions that we have seen during live deck building, you can check out the Moxfield page. That is in the link tree. Urabrass Forge is our next suggestion. Urabrass Forge is a 3-mana red artifact, and this, at the beginning of combat, on your turn, you put an oil counter on our Urabrass Forge, which is $9. This thing better do something cool, and then you make an X1 red Phyrexian creature token with haste, where X is the number of oil counters on the forge, and you sacrifice the token at the beginning of the next end step. This thing's cool. This thing synergizes hard. We can swing with the token, and if the token survives combat, we can use Brea's activated ability to get some value off the token because it's gonna die anyway. It makes a token. The token is not long for this world, and we're gonna sacrifice it for value. And it makes a perpetually bigger token the longer it's on the battlefield, which is cool. This thing is $9. It is from Obi-Wan. Why is this thing $9 though? $9 feels like a lot for this card. Okay. Dang. All right. So Evan suggests a Tycho the Patient Avalanche. Tycho the Patient Avalanche. I'm gonna not. All right. Tycho the Patient Avalanche. Hey everybody, so we are building Brea, our artifact commander, tonight because it was voted on by the Discord server. If you want to join the Bigger Gayer Discord and vote on what commanders we talk about during live deck building, and also see everybody's food, faces, and pets, join the link. It's in the link tree. This is Tycho the Patient Avalanche. This thing just came out in the Foundation's Jumpstart expansion. It's a 4-mana, 4/5 Turtle Ninja. And it enters tapped, and when another creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it didn't die, you scry one, you put a +1/+1 counter on Tycho. And whenever Tycho attacks, you may pay Demir, and when you do, target attacking creature cannot be blocked. Okay, this thing's cool. Its art is in fact a vibe. This thing is very cool. It's a little bit complicated. I don't love that it enters tapped, even though it's got a nice thick dumpy that we want to block with. It's a little bit bummer that it enters tapped. It does give us scry triggers, so we can do blue-black scry with it. And we want to be doing big guys, because it can make things unblockable. Yeah, this thing's cool. It's a vibe. It's $15. $15 feels like a lot for that. Thank you very much, Nick, for the follow. I really appreciate it. Hey, Frost Ace, Brutaclad's rad. Alright, yeah, thank you very much for the follow, Nick. I'm a video editor. I make silly little MTG green screen videos on all platforms. Thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for the for the 100 likes already. I appreciate it. And thank you for the 4 follows. I appreciate y'all. This is Brutaclad, suggested by friend of the channel, Frost Ace. He's been deck building with me for a few months now. He's a vibe. This is a 4/4 for 6 mana in Izzet colors, and it says that creatures tokens you control have haste. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, you make a 2/1 blue Phyrexian Mirror artifact creature token. And then you may choose a token you control. If you do, each other token you control becomes a copy of that token. Brutaclad can go absolutely crazy. Normally see Brutaclad as the commander, and it's making copies of Brutaclad, because copies of things become tokens. So he makes copies of himself, and then he Fibonacci sequences out and goes absolutely nuts. This thing can be really cool in our artifact token sacrifice here, Artifact-ocracy style. It can do a lot of value. It itself makes tokens. It makes us 1 token a turn, and then it makes our tokens the best of tokens we have on the battlefield. So, like, I don't know, Thopter's Fly, which is significant. That's cool. Brutaclad's cool. Something else cool about Brutaclad? 50 cents. We love budget cards here on the channel. Thank you very much for the suggestion, Frost Ace. Steven Smith says, can you throw a Solemn? Yeah, hell yeah, we'll throw a Solemn in here. Solemn is rad. Solemn is a card synonymous with Commander. It's a little 4-mana colorless artifact, colloquially known as the Sad Robot. It enters the battlefield, it searches your library for a basic, and it plops it down onto the battlefield tap for you. And when you block with this 2/2 and he dies, you draw yourself a card. He does the 2 things you need your commander deck to do just to function as a commander deck, which is ramp, in the form of his ETB grabbing you that land, and card draw, which he does when he dies. He's great. He's $1, and there's like 30 different printings of him. You can get the prettiest Sad Robot you want. There are so many different versions, and they're all relatively cheap. I kind of like the one from the Fallout expansion last year. That one looks real pretty. Snorlaxium says, dang, that plus a 6/6 demon who makes other 6/6 demons seems nice. I'm not familiar with that one, Snorlaxium. Tommy Two Hands says that a crime novelist is rad. crime novelist is hella cool. It's like $1.50. It's red. It's 3 mana. It's a goblin bard, and it came out in the Murders at Karloff Manors expansion. It is a $1.50 1/3. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact, you put a +1/+1 sacrifices. Once we start getting our value train rolling, this thing's gonna get huge, and it's gonna make us oodles and boodles of mana. Thank you so much. This is a great suggestion, Tommy Two Hands. All right. Steven Smith, thank you so much for hanging out. Royal Elemental is always a fun one. Royal Elemental's hardcore, alright? Like, the game... Like, the vibe at the table shifts when the Royal Elemental enters the battlefield. Royal Elemental, it's like blue, it's like 7 mana, excuse me, it's 6 ping, and it's gonna make them sad, and it's gonna make you win. This thing's crazy, it's $14, I'd recommend a proxy, but be careful, some people will have some feel-bads about it. Alright, Matten suggests a Thopter Spy Network. Thopter Spy Network. Thopter Spy Network. After Thopter Spy Network, we are going to see a Mycosynth Golem suggested by Zombie Kidney over on Twitch. Thank you very much for hanging out with me on Twitch. This is a 4-drop, a blue enchantment. It's $1, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control an artifact, you make yourself a Thopter. And whenever one or more artifact creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you draw yourself a card. This thing's amazing. It's the same mana value as our commander, because our commander sacrifice our little guys that we make off our commander's ETB. This thing to just keep drawing cards. The 1/1 Thopter. It's great, and it keeps making Thopters at our upkeep, makes them one at a time, and when we have enough cards, we can just sacrifice the Thopters for Brea's abilities, or whatever else we're sacrificing artifact tokens at the time for. This thing's cool, it's a lot of value, it generates you guys, and it generates you cards when your guys hit for damage. I just turned my Brea deck into Urtet, but I can recommend slamming Thopter Sword and Karn Lattice. Something Thopter Sword. What is Thopter Sword? Thopter Sword? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with Thopter Sword, and it's not coming up. A Karn Lattice. Okay. Karn Lattice. Let's talk about Karn. There's an Aftermath Karn, which is a creature, which is just like such a hardcore. This thing. This guy's had a glow up. So he used to be a planeswalker that stopped activated abilities, but now he's a beefy, manly commander. He's a 5-mana colorless artifact golem, and his power and toughness are each equal to the greatest mana value among artifacts we control. So if he's the biggest artifact we control, he just is a 5/5 by himself. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you add a colorless for each artifact you control. This mana can't be spent to cast non-artifact spells. Until end of turn, you don't lose the mana as steps and phases end. Karn's crazy. Karn is an excellent commander, and he's fast as hell. But he'd just be cool in this deck, because we're going to have a bunch of artifacts. We're going to be making artifact tokens. And he's going to generate us mana, and he's going to function like that green Omnath thing, where he banks us the mana between turns. Karn's crazy, Karn's $12, and if you're building a Karn deck, I would say he is worth $12 for the commander. He's really good. Not to mention, he gets beefier when you get, like, a bigger artifact than him. He's real cool. He was printed in Aftermath. Oh! Snorlaxium found it! It's called a Dreadfast Demon. Thank you, Snorlaxium. Dreadfast Demon. What the heck is a Dreadfast Demon? Dreadfeast Demon. Excuse me. Now, I am spelling Dreadfeast Demon. The Dreadfeast Demon is a 7-drop mono black demon 6/6 flyer, and at the beginning of your end step, you sacrifice a non-demon creature, and if you do, you create a token that's a copy of this thing. Okay, this thing's pretty sweet, actually. Beginning of your end step, sacrifice a non-demon creature, probably a Thopter, if we're being real about it. So we sacrifice that Thopter, we create a token of a 6/6. That's amazing. That's a lot of value. Cons about this card. It's 7 mana, that's a lot of mana. Pros, it's a 6/6 that generates 6/6s, and that's very silly and fun. It generates them one at a time at the end step. It's cool. And we will be able to generate some sacrificeable little Thopter guys with our commander, and we'll be able to make some little 6/6s with this thing. Something else that I like about this little 7-drop Black Demon is it's only 50 cents, and that's very cool. I love a budget card here, and this thing itself is a bomb. It is 7 mana, but it's 50 cents, and it's a 6/6 that generates 6/6s that fly. Karn from War, Mycosynth Lattice. Okay, so I am not able to put up multiple cards, but we'll talk about a Mycosynth Lattice. Mycosynth Lattice makes me sad, and it's mostly just used to make crimes against me specifically. I don't love Mycosynth Lattice, because normally when you see a Mycosynth Lattice, something awful is about to happen. So we're going to try to load a Mycosynth Lattice. This thing. Yeah, this 6-drop says that all permanents are artifacts, in addition to their other types, and all cards that aren't in plays and permanents are colorless. Players may spend mana as though or mana of any color. That last part's nice. No, no one's doing it for that. This thing's 16 bucks, and it makes everything artifacts in addition to their other types. And it's normally preceded by, like, destroy all artifacts or gain control of all artifacts. Normally, in my play experiences, when you see this on the battlefield, you should panic, because they're about to blow up your lands, or they're about to gain control of all your lands. Yeah, I don't love it. It's normally just used to hurt my feeling. Alright, so we got a Thopter Foundry and a Sword of the Meek. Or Karn the Great Creator. So Karn the Great Creator, I'm pretty sure it's the one that turns off activated abilities of artifacts. Yeah, so God, I hate that. Okay, so this thing is a 4-drop. It's a colorless planeswalker. It says activated abilities of artifacts your opponent's control can't be activated. So you use Mycosynth Lattice to make everything an artifact, and then you say that your opponents can't activate abilities. And because your lands are now artifacts, you can't activate their mana abilities because of Karn. Yay! Aren't we having a good time? Aren't we glad we chose to use our one and only lives to play Commander? Let's talk about Mirrorworks. Mirrorworks is not something I think I'm familiar with, actually. Mirrorworks is this thing. It's a 5-mana colorless artifact, and it's $1. And whenever another non-token artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2, and if you do, you create a token that's a copy of that artifact. Okay, I love this thing. This thing's $1. It's 5 mana. It requires it's a big mana investment, right? So you're gonna end up paying 5 to cast this, and to just resolve one of its triggers, you need to pay an additional 2, and you make yourself a copy of a spell you were already casting, which could be cool if you're casting big artifacts. This thing could be exciting, but it is a big mana investment. You are gonna spend 7 mana on this thing before it does anything for you, but it does make you copies, which could be cool. That could be very cool. I don't know what we're making copies of yet, though. All right. Sword of the Meek. Sword of the Meek. Hey, everybody. I am BGM. On lives, we do live deck building. If you have any suggestions for our Brea artifact build, we are doing... Oh, God. Are you serious? My Discord server is going nuts. Gotta check that out. Kai Brazil, are you serious about the glitching ads posting it, everyone? Are you able to turn that off? Jan Jansen is cool. Let's talk about Jan Jansen. Jan Jansen. I need to know if you're serious about that thing. Are you serious, Matt?
You're a nerd.
Alright, okay, cool. I sure hope not. That would be super duper awful. I would really hate if that were happening. Where is he pinging everybody? Are you talking about... Oh God, he is pinging everybody. He did it twice. He did it 3 times? That's fucked. Okay, well, he only did it 3 times. This is Jan Jansen, the Chaos Crafter. This thing is cool. It came out in the Baldur's Gate expansion. It's a Gnome Artificer 3/3 with haste with multiple activated abilities. says sacrifice an artifact creature, you make yourself 2 treasures, or you sacrifice a not creature artifact and you make yourself 2 1/1 colorless construct artifact creature tokens. This thing's cool. It cares about making tokens. It either sacrifices our treasures to make us guys, or it sacrifices guys to make us treasures. He's great. He's a super fun build in and of his own right. He is just Rhea without blue, and he's great. Honestly, I have definitely lost to Jan Jansen before. It can go coconuts. It can do some spooky stuff. Encroaching Myco Synth. Encroaching Myco Synth. Oh, I know why Kudo's doing that. It's because I keep fucking disconnecting. Myco Synth. Encroaching Myco Synth. Encroaching Myco Synth artifact. It says that non-land permanents you control are artifacts in addition to their other types. And the same is true for permanent spells you control that are non-land permanents. Cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. This thing's cool. This feels fair. This doesn't make my spider senses go off and make me think everyone's gonna steal my lands. This thing's cool. This is a vibe. It's 70 cents. It says the non-land permanents you control are artifacts in addition to their other types. And the same is true for permanent spells you control and non-land permanent cards you own that aren't on the battlefield, like things in your graveyard and stuff in your library. It's cool. It feels like my lands are safe. Metalwork Colossus. Metalwork Colossus. Funny story about Metalwork Colossus. Metalwork Colossus was a card designed at PAX, which is a video game convention that was happening in Seattle, and I got to be there in the arena when the crowd was designing this here Metalwork Colossus. This is an 11 mana 10/10. It costs X less to cast, where X is the total converted mana cost of non-creature artifacts you control. Sacrifice 2 artifacts, return it from your graveyard to your hand. This thing's cool. I got to be there while it was being designed in at the Seattle Convention Center, and that was a really cool experience. I tell you what, though, I had no fucking idea what any of the words on a Magic card meant at that point. I had only been playing for a few weeks, but it was a cool convention, and it was a cool time. The crowd wanted to name this card Awkward Colossus. It was silly. It was a fun time. If you ever get a chance to go to a Magic the Gathering convention or event, go. It's a rad time. Mechanized Production is suggested by a Kitaravana. Kitaravana suggests a Mechanized Production. Mechanized Production. Mechanized Production is a 4 mana blue enchantment aura, and you enchant an artifact you control, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you create a token that's a copy of the enchanted artifact, and then if you control 8 or more of the artifacts with the same name, like a treasure or a thopter, you win the game. This thing's cool. It's an alternate win con for $1.50. It's cool, it's fun, it's got a bunch of reprints. This one is from Fallout, it appears. It's a good time. Because it's an upkeep trigger on an alternate win con, people are gonna remove it. There's no way, well, at least not in my pot, people aren't gonna let you win with this. And if you play it fair, it's not gonna, if you play this thing with flash and then win at your upkeep, like, that's cool. But, like, people are gonna be able to see this thing, people are gonna be able to interact with this thing, and this thing feels like a very fair alternate win con to me. Alright, Golden Archer 720 suggests a Myco Synth Golem. Myco Synth Golem. Looking for a Myco Synth Golem. Alright, Myco Synth Golem is 11 mana. It's a 4/5. It says affinity for artifacts. So it costs a bunch of mana less, where for each artifact you control. This thing's cool. And artifact creature spells you have okay. Artifact creatures have affinity for artifacts. This thing's actually amazing. I can't believe I've never seen this thing before. This thing's 40 bucks. The art is rad. This thing's actually amazing. I like this thing a lot. I can't believe I've never seen this thing in an artifact build before. This thing's crazy. It's 40 bucks. Wow, okay. It makes your artifact creatures almost free. Nope, it will just make them free in a Brea deck, because Brea is an artifact, this thing's an artifact. We're going to have oodles and boodles of artifacts. Our artifacts are going to become free if they're colorless with this thing. That's probably why this thing's 40 bucks. This thing's crazy. Excellent suggestion. Thank you, Golden Archer, for the suggestion. Thomas Two Hands says, oh, Mycosynth. Oh, so it's fair in Mycosynth Lattice. I don't know if it's necessarily good, but I love a Soul Herder. Soul Herder is cool. Yeah, we can also run a ton of blink effects in the deck, too. Blink effects would be great. We can have Brea leave the battlefield, and she can enter the battlefield, make her 2 little Thopter boys, and then we can sacrifice the Thopters with her abilities. Soul Herder is a 3-mana Azorius creature 1/1. And whenever a creature is exiled from the battlefield, you plop a 1/1 counter on your Soul Herder, and at the beginning of your end step, you may blink a creature, which means it leaves the battlefield and it comes back. You would want to blink a creature to get its ETB effects. Our commander has an ETB effect. When Brea enters the battlefield, she makes 2 little Thopter creature tokens with flying, and Brea wants to use those little Thopters for value by paying 2 and sacrificing them and maybe killing your opponent's creatures or gaining some life. All right, Jansen, we did. So the version of this I run is a Thopter Tribal because, yeah, Thopter Tribal would be great in a Brea deck. It's hilarious as opposed to the usual play Brea Go Infinite Psy Master Thopterist. Yeah, honestly, yeah. Brea decks, because Brea decks have so much access to so many cards, they often lend themselves to a CEDH strategy where you can run a ton of infinite combos. Yeah, Mycosynth Golem, Zombie Kidney. I'm sorry I missed your suggestion. Over there, my bad. Saheeli's Directive. Saheeli's Directive. Saheeli's Directive. Saheeli's Directive is a 3-mana red sorcery with an X attached to it. It has Improvise, so each artifact you tapped while casting this thing pays for 1. Because we want that X to be as big as possible, because to reveal the top X cards of your library, you may put any number of artifact cards with a converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Then put all cards revealed this way that weren't put onto the battlefield into your graveyard. This thing's amazing. This sorcery was printed in the Sealy Commander Precon. The Saheeli Commander Precon was a blue-red artifact Planeswalker Commander build, and it's cool. Maybe we can pull up the Saheeli Commander. Saheeli was a vibe. I remember I bought that deck for a friend. Is this the one that can be your commander? Where's the one that can be your commander? Where's Commander Saheeli? Yep, you're Commander Saheeli. Saheeli the Gifted can be your commander. It's a 4-mana Izzet Planeswalker. It's got a +1 to make yourself a little servo, and you got a +1 for the next spell you cast this turn. Costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control as you cast it. And for each artifact you control, create a token that's a copy of it. The tokens gain haste, and you exile those tokens at the beginning of the next end step. This thing's cool. It's a vibe. It's a Planeswalker that can be your commander. And also, fun facts, she's a lesbian, which makes her very cool to me. She's also $3. And I think we're getting a new Saheeli creature in the Aether... Yeah, we are getting a new Saheeli. We're getting a Teamer Saheeli. Well, we can't find Teamer Saheeli because Brea's not in green. Alright, so Kept Evergreen over on TikTok suggests a Noetic Scales. Noetic Scales is not a card I'm familiar with. Noetic Scales is a 4-mana colorless artifact, and it's $4. And during each player's upkeep, return to its owner's hand each creature that player controls with power greater than the number of cards in his or her hand. This thing is a stacks piece, kind of. Well, it feels fair. It does trigger on each player's upkeep. This is a stacks piece. It keeps large creatures off the board, and if we're doing like a Thopter Tribal, or if we have a bunch of little guys that we want to be sacrificing to Saheeli, or an altar, or some other thing, this thing could be great, because we won't be playing big guys, but our opponents will be, and this thing will keep bouncing them back to our hands. The only time where I can see this thing really kind of becoming a problem is if one of those creatures has like a really impactful enter the battlefield effect, and we just keep putting it back into their hand for free. That could be a silly interaction. So for that, I kind of like it. Saheeli, the Sublime Artificer. Saheeli, Sublime, Artificer. Hey everybody, I am BGM. I am a video editor and MTG content creator on all platforms. If you want to support me, hit the like button, please. Or follow. This is Saheeli, the Sublime Artificer. It is an Izzet 3 mana Planeswalker, and this little uncommon Planeswalker came out in the War of the Sparks set. And it says, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you make yourself a little 1/1 blocking servo artifact creature token, and you can -2 it, and target artifact you control becomes a copy of another target artifact or creature you control until end of turn, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. This thing's really cool. You can really strategize around this little -2 ability, and you can turn your shitty little tokens that Brea makes, or Saheeli makes, into more impactful, big, spicy artifacts. This thing's cool. It generates us tokens when we cast non-creature stuff. I like it a lot. It's also 60 cents, it's in our colors, and it has a really forgiving casting cost because of the hybrid mana. A lot of my suggestions are from the Saheeli Precon. I bought it. That's cool. Yeah. Well, what was the event in Minneapolis, if you don't mind me asking? Oh, Liberator. Liberator, Urza's Battlethopter. Liberator, Urza's Battlethopter is a cool little card. It came out in the Brothers War expansion about 2 years ago. It's 7 mana, it's a 3-drop, it's got flash, it's got flying, it's a 1/2, and you may cast colorless spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. And whenever you cast a spell, if the amount of mana is greater than this thing's power, you put a +1/+1 counter on your Battlethop. This thing's cool. It gives your stuff flash. A friend of mine has built Urza's Battlethopter, and it's crazy, and it plays at instant speed. It uses the way that she plays Urza's Battlethopter is she just casts everything at the end step of the opponent right before her in turn order, and then she just gets all her stuff for free, and it barely spends any time on the battlefield, and it's kind of like it's entering with haste in her Urza build. This thing's crazy. Being able to do things with flash is a ton of value, y'all. Dream Halls. Dream Halls. Dream Halls is a 5 mana mono blue enchantment, and it says instead of paying the casting cost for a spell of any color, its caster may choose and discard a card that shares at least one color with it. That spell has X in its casting cost. X is 0. That's complicated. Okay, cool. So X spells don't work with this. And you get to cast free spells, kind of. This thing's very cool. We need to draw a ton of cards to make this thing work, though. This thing's 33 bucks, and we want to have a ton of cards in our hand, because then we can discard the cards and then cast free spells. And if we're running a lot of multicolored stuff, it'll kind of help us cast things easier with it. I've never seen this thing before. This thing is very weird. Very weird. Very strange. You got a Loading Ready Run playmat there? That's cool. Loading Ready Run seems like a cool couple of people. I haven't checked out their channel yet, but I see them on guests on like Tolarian Community, and I am not a mechanist, Marcus Edwards. I see their stuff on like the Command Zone and Tolarian Community. I am not a mechanist. Maybe we can find a mechanist. Mechanist. Goblin Mechanist is a 5-drop goblin. It's 40 cents with an activated ability. You reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card. This thing gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the card's CMC. Put the revealed card on the bottom of your library in any order. Well, that card sucks. Let's probably not play that. Alright, guys. I think that is going to be it. We are out of suggestions. Hey, everybody. I'm Bigger Gara Magic. I'm a video editor and MTG content creator across a bunch of platforms. We do live deck building. And if you want to suggest a card for our Brea artifact build, please put it in the comments, y'all. And if you see it over here, it'll be put into a Moxfield deck list. And y'all can find that deck list on the link tree in the profile. And if you want to